Okay, so it is 8:30 in the morning. And why am I awake, you ask? I sort of unexpectedly started writing the new album. And at that point I was just like, oh, I'm just writing songs in quarantine. And then it just became an album really quickly and really, really kind of beautifully. Surprisingly, we've built a home studio in my house. And so it's like I'm gonna do vocals today in my house. I'm very excited about it. Evermore was the first time I didn't discard everything after I made something new. I actually had to kind of fight off anxiety that I had in my head, like fear that was like, you need to change. You can't stay in the forest. I was like, I want to stay in the forest. Working with Aaron, the music that we were making, he was writing instrumentals and I was writing the melodies and the lyrics. And what ended up happening was I think we just gravitated towards what both of us simultaneously felt made us feel cozy, which was nature. One thing I wanted to do with folklore is I wanted it to represent spring and summer. And when I made Evermore, I knew that I wanted to fill in the rest of the seasons of the year and have it reflect fall and winter. So that's another element that nature came into it. With folklore, one of the main themes throughout that was conflict resolution, right? Like trying to figure out how to get through something with someone, or making confessions, or trying to tell them something. Evermore deals a lot in endings of all sorts, shapes and sizes, all the kinds of ways we can end a relationship, a friendship, and the pain that goes along with that, the phases of it.
Opening the album with the words, I'm doing good, I'm on some new shit, and saying yes instead of no. It applies to the situation that the song is written about where, you know, you're updating a former lover on what your life is like now and trying to be positive about it. But it was also where I am creatively, where it's like, I'm just saying yes, I'm just putting out an album in the worst time you could put one out. I'm just making stuff with someone who I've always wanted to make stuff with.
I liked opening the album with that because I loved the feeling that I got immediately upon hearing the instrumental that Aaron created for it. It felt strangely, I say witchy, and I stand by that. It felt like somebody standing over a potion, making a love potion, dreaming up the person that they want and the person they desire and trying to figure out how to get that person in their life. And all the kind of misdirection and complexity that goes into seeing someone, feeling a connection, wanting them. It felt a bit magical and mysterious, which is what I wanted people to feel going into an album that was a collection of these stories that were going to take them in all kinds of directions. So I wanted to start them with sort of a setting of the vibe. Champagne Problems that was one of my favorite bridges to write. I really love a bridge where you tell the full story in the bridge. Like you really you shift gears. I'm so excited to one day be in front of a crowd when they all sing, "She would have made such a lovely bride. What a shame she's fucked in the head." Like,
I had been wanting to write a song about Rebecca Harkness since 2013, probably. And I'd never figured out the right way to do it because there was never a track that felt like it could kind of hold an entire story of somebody's life. Then when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I think this is my opening. I think this is my moment.
Because it's not about you, but it is all about you.
Well, it's that like country music kind of narrative device where in country music it's like, this guy did this, then this woman did this, then they met, and their kid was me.
Totally.
I do remember the exact moment that I walked in and he was playing that exact piano part. And all I had to do was follow the piano melody with the verse melody, where I'll just kind of hear what he's doing and it's all there. All I have to do is dream up some lyrics and come up with some gut-wrenching, heart-shattering story to write with him.
I wrote that one alone, and it's definitely, I think, one of the saddest songs on the album. It's kind of a song about karma.
Yeah.
It's a song about greed. It's a song about how somebody could be your best friend and your companion and your most trusted person in your life, and then they could go and become your worst enemy who knows how to hurt you because they were once your most trusted person.
It's the worst betrayal.
Yeah.
When I was reading, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I was thinking, wow, her husband just tolerates her. She's doing all these things and she's trying so hard and she's trying to impress him and he's just tolerating her the whole time. There was a part of me that was relating to that because at some point in my life I felt that way. And so I ended up writing this song, Tolerate It, that's all about sort of trying to love someone who's ambivalent. Thank you.
Sometimes when I'm writing to an instrumental track, I'll push play and I'll immediately see a scene set. This was one of those cases where I just saw, you know, lonely disco ball, twinkly lights, neon signs, a couple of stragglers on the dance floor, just sort of a sad, moonlit, lonely experience in the middle of a town that you've never been. And I just was thinking, okay, so we have mirror balls in the middle of a dance floor because they reflect light, they are broken a million times and that's what makes them so shiny. We have people like that in society too. They hang there and every time they break, it entertains us. It's also a metaphor for so many people who have to feel like, everybody feels like they have to be on for certain people. You have to be different versions of yourself for different people, different versions at work, different versions around friends, different version of yourself around family, you know, everybody has to be duplicitous or feels that they have to in some ways be duplicitous. And that's part of the human experience, but it's also exhausting. And you kind of learn that every one of us has the ability to become a shapeshifter. This is the first time in the bridge saying they called off the circus, burned the disco down when they sent home the horses and the rodeo clowns. I wrote this song right after I found out all my shows were canceled. And it's like I'm still on that tightrope. I'm still trying everything to get you laughing at me. So it's like I realized here I am writing all this music, still trying, and I know I have an excuse to sit back and not do something, but I'm not, and I can't, and I don't know why that is.
I haven't met the new me yet. In the context of the relationship song, I was trying to channel sort of my friends who have gotten out of very, very long, impactful, life-altering relationships and saying, how do I pack this up? How do I put this in a box and put it in my car and drive away? From that perspective, it goes to, I haven't met the new me yet, the person I'm gonna have to become in order to get over this. This person who's gonna have new hobbies and fill their time with new things other than you. In the second verse, it says, I hope she'll be a beautiful fool who takes my spot next to you. You haven't met the new me yet, meaning you haven't met the person who's gonna replace me yet. So then in the third verse, it goes to, I haven't met the new me yet, but I think she'll give you that, meaning I think she's going to forgive you and I think she's gonna give you that green light to move ahead with your life and to know that I'm okay. There's another meaning to the phrase, which is that I have no idea what comes after this and I truly, truly have no plan. And I'm okay with that. The phrase is exactly what I mean. I have no idea what happens next.
It's a weird experience to work with you. And now Aaron can understand it. No, I'm serious because it's like, here's the song. Oh, wait, here's the bridge. Oh, wait, here's a better bridge. Okay, now I have the perfect bridge. And then here's the thing after the bridge. This thing's gonna come in.
Oh yeah, remember when I pulled up
yeah, so like,
in the car? I wrote that in the vocal booth.
Hearing the patchwork of like that whole thing coming together, I was just like, I just love what you did on that song. It takes me away.
I love what you did on that song. A whole song started with the fact that I had written down in my phone, meet me behind the mall, years ago, wanting to write it into a song. I'd been thinking about addiction and I'd been thinking about people who, if they're either suffering through mental illness or they're suffering through addiction or they have an everyday struggle. No one pats them on the back every day, but every day they are actively fighting something. But there are so many days that nobody gives them credit for that.
Yeah.
And so how often must somebody who's in that sort of internal struggle must want to say to everyone in the room, you have no idea how close I am to going back to a dark place. I had this idea that the first verse would be about someone who is in a sort of a life crisis and has just been trying and failing in their relationship, has been, you know, messing things up with people they love, has been letting everyone down, and kind of has driven to this overlook, this cliff. Is just in the car going, I could do whatever I want in this moment and it could affect everything forever.
Writing Matt's part was really fun. I really loved writing, we were like the mall before the internet. It was the one place to be. Like, it was the place to be. And I was trying to reflect on the Coney Island visual of a place where thrills were once sought. A place where once it was all electricity and magic and now the lights are out and you're looking at it thinking, what did I do?
When I first heard the track that you sent me, I thought, I have to write something that matches it. And pretty quickly I came upon the idea of fate, because sometimes I just, go into a rabbit hole of thinking of how things happen. And I kind of love the romantic idea that every step you're taking one step closer to where you're supposed to be, guided by this little like invisible string. First time I heard that piano thing you had written, I just felt like it's got these sort of ominous strings underneath it, and I was like, oh, this is female rage. And then I was thinking, the most rage-provoking element of being a female is the gaslighting that happens when, for centuries we've been just expected to absorb male behavior. Oftentimes when we, in our emboldened state now, respond to bad male behavior or somebody just doing something that was absolutely out of line, and we respond, that response is treated like the offense itself. Somebody who's very guilty of this in my life, and it's a person who makes me feel, or tries to make me feel like I'm the offender by having any kind of defense to his offenses. It's like, oh, I have absolutely no right to respond, or I'm crazy. So you providing the musical bed for me to make that point that I've been trying so hard to figure out, how do I say why this feels so bad?
Because I really love a turn of a phrase or play on words or common phrases and you twist something. Another one that I had had for a very long time, I think I'd had this one for a couple of years, was the knife cuts both ways. If the shoe fits, walk in it till your high heels break. Those are my favorite kind of things to do. So if I think of one, but I don't have a song at the moment, I write it down and I keep a file of, I also have a folder of favorite words. Well, epiphany on folklore was one of my favorite words.
I had been doing a lot of research on my grandfather who fought in World War II at Guadalcanal, which was an extremely bloody battle. He never talked about it, not with his sons, not with his wife. Nobody got to hear about what happened there. And so my dad had to do a lot of research, and he and his brothers did a lot of digging and found out that my granddad was exposed to some of the worst situations you could ever imagine. So I kind of tried to imagine what would happen in order to make you just never be able to speak about something. And then when I was thinking about that, I realized that there are people right now, taking a 20-minute break in between shifts at a hospital who are having this kind of trauma happen to them right now that they will probably never want to speak about.
One of the things about this song that kind of still rips me apart when I listen to it is that she's singing with me on this song. My mom found a bunch of her old records, a bunch of old vinyls of her singing opera, and I sent them to Aaron, and he added them to the song. And so it says, if I didn't know better, I think you were singing to me now. And then you hear Marjorie actually sing, my grandmother. And it's moments like that on the record that just make you feel like your whole heart is in this whole thing that you're doing. She died when I was 13. I think it was when I was on a trip to Nashville to try and make it and to try to hand out my demo CD to record labels and things like that. So there were pretty insane coincidences like that.
I came in and I was like, hey, this could be really weird and we could hate this. So could we just, because we're in quarantine and there's nothing else going on, could we just try to see what it's like if we write this song together? So he was singing the chorus of it, and I thought it sounded really good from a man's voice, from a masculine perspective. And I really liked that it seemed to be an apology. And I've written so many songs from a female's perspective of wanting a male apology that we decided to make it from a teenage boy's perspective, apologizing after he loses the love of his life because he's been foolish. When you sent me this instrumental, the first word that I thought of was this is what peace sounds like. It's got this, this amazing bass line that just made me feel like this is serenity, this is peace. And then I was thinking, maybe you just start with the obvious and think about how that could be told in an interesting way that kind of goes against the title. Like, I could never give you peace over the most peaceful sounding instrumental. If you're gonna be in my life, I feel like there's a certain amount that comes with it that I can't stop from happening. I can't stop from you getting a call in the morning that says, the tabloids are writing this today. I can't help it if there's a guy with a long lens camera 2 miles away with a telescope lens taking pictures of you. This song was basically like, is it enough? Is the stuff that I can control enough to sort of block out the things that I can't? I think this is a song that's like extremely personal to me, because there are times when I feel like with everything that's in my control, I can make myself seem like someone who doesn't have an abnormal life. The word hoax is another word that I love, because I love that it has an X, and I love the way that it looks, and I love the way it sounds. I think with this song being the last song on the album, it kind of embodied all the things that this album was thematically, like confessions, incorporating nature, emotional volatility and ambiguity at the same time. It's the most kind of symbolic, poetic thing, listing all these things that this person is to you. That line about, it still hurts underneath my scars from when they pulled me apart. Like, anyone in my life knows what I'm singing about there, but everybody has that situation in their life where it's like, you let someone in and they get to know you and they know exactly what buttons to push to hurt you the most.
This song it goes through walking through the forest barefoot in the middle of winter, or standing on a balcony and letting the icy wind just hit you and you're catching your death. And then in the last chorus, the person goes inside and finally is warm and finally is safe. It's about sort of the process of finding hope again. But it also reflected back to when I went through like a bunch of bad stuff in 2016, like July, November. All those times were just sort of taking it day by day to get through, trying to find a glimmer of hope, all of that. So I was coming from both of those perspectives, and we wrote it exactly the same way we did Exile, where Joe wrote the piano, I based the vocal melody on the piano, and we sent it to Justin, who then added that bridge. And Joe had written the piano part so that the tempo speeds up and it changes. The music completely changes to a different tempo in the bridge. And Justin really latched onto that and just 100% embraced it and wrote this beautiful sort of the clutter of all your anxieties in your head, and they're all speaking at once. And then I wrote this narrative of when I was shipwrecked, I thought of you, that sort of thing, where there was this beacon of hope, and then in the end, you realize the pain wouldn't be forever.
I think The Lakes sort of sounds like a testament of what I wanted to escape from and where I saw myself escaping. We'd gone to the Lake District in England a couple years ago. I've always, in my career, since I was probably about 20, written about this sort of cottage backup plan that I have. So The Lakes is really talking a lot about relating to people who hundreds of years ago had the same exit plan and did it. I went to William Wordsworth's grave and just sat there, and I was like, wow, you went and did it. You just went away and you kept writing, but you didn't subscribe to the things that were killing you. And that's really the overarching thing that I felt when I was writing folklore is I may not be able to go to the lakes right now or to go anywhere, but I'm going there in my head, and this escape plan is working. I thought it would be the perfect way to slot the last puzzle piece in right when people least expected it.
Yeah.
Because Hoax as the ending song for the record, I thought was interesting for a couple weeks, but then I wanted to actually come in with the real last song of the record, which is this song that shows you exactly what it kind of is the overarching theme of the whole album, of trying to escape, having something you want to protect, trying to protect your own sanity, and saying, look, they did this hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not the first person who's felt this way. They did this.
Oh.